What's up, everyone? How y'all doing? It is your girl, your diva in knowledge, Lady Mocha, represent Mocha's Cafe de Paris, where I'm always serving you wisdom, knowledge, and spiritual awareness. Again, I want to give a big up to all of my subscribers. I thank you to all my ladies and to all of my guys who have been super chatting, who have been sending me cash apps, who have been donating to my brand. Those of you who haven't been able to donate but still have been supportive of my movement, still attending all of my live chats. You know, when I'm going live, y'all are the first to show me y'all love and support. Y'all drop by, y'all interacting with me, so I'm definitely grateful, whether you support me financially or you just support me just in spirit, just by being present and showing me that you appreciate my craft and what I do. So moving right along, I know it's been a while since I uploaded anything. Tonight is actually almost 2 in the morning where I am located, coming from the dirty South. So of course, I know everybody's in bed right now. I'm in Eastern Standard time zone, and I didn't want to go live because it's extremely late and I didn't want to be inconsiderate. I know a lot of my subscribers have to get up for work in the morning, so I said I'm just going ahead and upload. And this is one of my special series, which I like to call my jailbreak series, where I discuss with some of you all, well, with most of my subscribers. I talk about things within the criminal justice field. Me being a correctional officer, there's a lot of things that I observe from a correctional officer standpoint when it comes to dealing with inmates and interacting with inmates. So whenever I have information that I feel is imperative that I need to share with people who have loved ones who are incarcerated. You may have a son, you may have a husband, you may have a nephew, you may have a loved one that is incarcerated, that is doing time within the correctional facilities, but you know, being a offender, you know, being up under the authority of criminal justice, basically, where these individuals have lost their freedom due to making choices that cause them to violate the law, and it doesn't make them inhumane. You know, it's just good people who made bad choices. And in some cases, you do have some individuals that are what we consider to be menaces to society, where basically they are a threat to society, meaning that if they're not incarcerated, they can actually bring harm to a loved one. So as much as a lot of people may despise the criminal justice system, if it wasn't for the criminal justice systems, a lot of us would not be able to lay down and sleep at night peacefully. You will not be able to go to work peacefully. You will not be able to stop to the ATM machine and withdraw money out your account, you know, peacefully. Things that we take for granted because we have become so accustomed to the criminal justice dealing with these individuals, to where we act unbothered unless it's something that personally affects us, unless we see all this negative stuff that goes on with the police brutalities. Then it's like, okay, the criminal justice has no you know, has no real purpose for society other than to, you know, control it and regulate it. But at the same time, if criminal justice was not in place, if you didn't have officers, if you didn't have correctional officers, if you didn't have the drug enforcement bureau, if you didn't have all of these different sectors within the criminal justice system that wasn't regulating and enforcing these laws, you know, a lot of us would not be able to have a decent life. We wouldn't be able to, you know, peacefully be able to manage. You know, just think about it. Think about it. If there was no law enforcement that didn't exist, I mean, put all the negative stuff aside, because the truth is a lot of that does happen. We do have a lot of officers that abuse their authority, but you know, those are one of those things that God has to deal with them individually, and that's a karma they got to answer to. Even if the law decides to allow these individuals to slide off and not be penalized for overly abusing their authority and law enforcement, that's just something God has to deal with them a bit individually. And believe me, He not most of the time He does deal with you. You got to deal with karma. So even as a law enforcement officer, you cannot abuse your authority. You cannot go around here being badge heavy, thinking you can do what you want to do and say what you want to say, because it's going to come a point where you're going to get yourself in a situation that you can't crawl out of, or either you're going to approach a situation where somebody's going to take you out and not care what position you have as far as law enforcement. So nevertheless, I want to do my content on that. Well, I would express that before I went into my content. But the reason I thought it was imperative to talk about this again, because we all know somebody who's a loved one. We all have a family member or loved ones who are currently incarcerated. Some of them we know is never going to get out, never going to see the the light of day, especially if they have committed very heinous or severe crimes like murder, vehicular homicide, anything major. Unfortunately, trafficking drugs, unfortunately, that's a major criminal offense. In many cases, I've seen them incarcerate drug dealers longer and have been more harsh as far as penalizing drug dealers more severely than they do those who commit murder. So the criminal justice is not perfect. We can go back and forth all day and argue about that, but I choose not to go into that type of debate because it's like dealing with religion and politics. It'll last forever because somebody's going to have their own differences on how they perceive the criminal justice system, and I respect that. I'm not saying you have to like it or not like it, or you wrong. If you got something to say that I may not agree with, we all are adults here. So, you're welcome to leave a comment. Like I said, just please be respectful. It don't have to be anything nice like, oh, everybody in law enforcement should be respected and appreciated. Nah, because that would be phony. Because the truth is, we have a lot of people in law enforcement who abuse their authority, so it is what it is. Everybody does not set boundaries for themselves, and everybody does not respect the policy and procedures. But I want to talk about this because there are a lot of criminal offenders who do get released from prison, and while you may think they're going to be returning home, reformed individuals, the truth is most offenders that get released out of prison back into society, most of the time they re-enter with the institutionalized mindset. Me personally, I've seen some of the same offenders come back. The same ones who act like they hate dealing with officers, they hate being told what to do, they act like they hate jail and prison. I've seen these individuals come in here and complain and bicker about the food. They complain and bicker about not getting their laundry back in time. They wash rag, they jumpsuit, it's too small or it's too big. They complain about not getting shower shoes, because the ones they had done got raggedy, as much as a lot of these offenders constantly complain about law enforcement and constantly complain about the jail, they do nothing to prevent having to ever put themselves back in the same situation. That is the only thing that is benumbed to me. I see these same individuals. I have seen some of these guys who come into the jail, complain and bitch and piss and moan about everything, act like they hate it there so much. 2-3 weeks later, I see them be escorted right back into my unit. And I'm like, son, are you serious? This is not the same young man who came in here crying and moaning about, I can't wait till I go home. I hate this place. This place sucks. I hate it here. I'd rather be home with my family. I miss my kids. I would see these guys break down and cry and talk about jail so bad, only to end up coming right back. And 9 times out of 10, it's either the same offense or when they was granted parole or probation, they violated it. They have done absolutely nothing to prevent themselves from coming back to an institution in which they constantly complain they hate so much. It's still benumbed to me. But I want to share this with y'all because I wanted everyone to be aware that when you have an offender who has been incarcerated for a significant amount of time, you have to be aware of the chances that you are taking as far as allowing them to come back into your life, allowing them to come back into your home, allowing them to have a relationship with your children. There are things that you have to take into consideration. If you have a son that's locked up in jail or in prison and he's going to be released as a mother, there are things you need to be aware of. If you have a husband that's currently incarcerated and is going to be getting released soon, there may be some things you have to consider. You may have a nephew. You may have who doesn't have any family. You may have a loved one who doesn't have any family, who doesn't have parents, and they may need to come and stay with you because they have nowhere else to go. And it's a lot of people that are very ignorant when it comes to dealing with offenders, inmates. These individuals who are going to be re-entering back into society and still have an institutionalized mindset to where even though they have left the prison or they left the jail, The jail and the prison has not left them. Okay, and if you're gullible and naive and you don't understand the dynamics of what it takes to deal with an offender, you can possibly be putting yourself at risk by helping an individual who is far beyond, you know, they far beyond going, to the point that there's absolutely nothing you can give them to make them become uninstitutionalized. You can give them a good job, you can get them a brand new car, you can take the man out of prison, but you can't take the prison out of the man or the woman. Let's not forget, we got females who are incarcerated as well. So whenever we talk about prison, most of the time we're always focusing on men. But the truth is there are more, there are just as much women. I work in a women's unit. I'm seeing women coming in there for some heavy crimes. The women are starting to outdo the men, to be honest with you. I have more female murderers that have been convicted with murder than males. Most of the males that I know in the unit, we have a lot of them who have committed murder offenses, but it was like drug offenses and stuff like that. But yeah, the women are definitely catching up with the men. So let's not spare these women any mercy, because these female offenders, criminal offenders, you cannot spare any leniency on them because they are women. Okay, they're just as ruthless as the dudes. If not, they're even more ruthless. So I'm going to give y'all some tips, and I'll break down some scenarios, some things that you got to be aware of in the event you have an incarcerated loved one that is coming home and is going to be released to you soon. So that way you can pretty much use your own discernment and decide if this is something you want to take on or not. So, first of all, let me introduce what I do. For those of you who are not aware of what I do, yes, I am a content creator. I talk about various topics, mostly relationships. A lot of the content I do is pertaining to Black women. We're not doing the best of to our ability to try to avoid, becoming statistics. So I talk a lot of topics pertaining to Black women, and I also talk to Black men on how to deal with Black women. So, anyway, on your spare time, you can look into all my videos and my content, and you can make that judgment or whatever. But let me move on into this. Let's talk about number one, things that you need to consider when dealing with an incarcerated loved one that's going to be released. First thing is, realize prison enhances bad habits. If they hustled in prison, they will hustle when they get home. If they have stolen in prison, they're going to steal from family when they get home. They have learned to hustle because hustling is survival in prison. Okay, so as I stated, if you have a loved one who's been in prison at least 5 years or more, understand that he or she has adopted a lot of those criminal hustling antics, because that is all that inmates do when they are incarcerated. They learn how to cheat, lie, and manipulate. It's unfortunately, in prison, it's known as survival. Because unfortunately, when you're in that type of environment, you're very limited in resources, unless you got a family that really supports you, that really looks out for you. But even then, after a while, inmates who do get the best of support from the outside, let's face it, family got to still take care of themselves in the outside world. So that leaves the inmate at a disadvantage, to where family may take care of them for a little while, may put money on the books for a little while, makes up phone calls, makes up letters. But after a while, the longer an inmate has been incarcerated in the facility, in the system, the more family is going to start kind of falling off, because it's a lot trying to take care of a loved one that's incarcerated. Anybody who has ever done it can totally understand that. Taking care of an inmate is more expensive than taking care of a child. The phone calls are expensive. Put money on their books are expensive. It's time consuming. It costs gas money, especially if they're incarcerated miles away outside your jurisdiction, outside your county. It made this 2-3 hour drive. You realize how much gas money that is, how much time and energy it is in the riding way out of town, driving to go see a loved one that's incarcerated for like an hour or two. So a lot of these inmates, they are pretty much on their own, because again, family can only do but so much. So what tends to happen is when they don't get a lot of support from family, that's why if anybody who does have a loved one in there, please try to support them as much as you can. If not, they're going to resort to that prison hustling mentality, which means they got to hustle from other inmates by either borrowing goods, borrowing commissary, and this can put them in a disadvantage because if they know they can't pay it back, and a lot of these inmates will do that. They will sit up here and make deals with other inmates about commissary. Yeah, man, if you give me some commissary, give me some chips, give me some honey buns or whatever for the week, I'll make sure that when my aunt cash apps me whatever, I'll give it back. And a lot of these guys, they don't give it back. I've seen some of these guys go so far as to borrowing commissary from one inmate to another, to turn around and approach my desk as a correction officer and tell me, you know what, I want to kill myself. I don't want to be in this unit anymore. What do you mean you want to kill yourself? I'm going to kill myself. Guess what? As an officer, I can't blow that off. I got to move him out of that unit so he can go to suicidal watch. And this is a game that it's that hustler mentality. A lot of these guys pull a stunt when they owe commissary, when they owe debts because they bet on the game last night that they watched on TV on what football team was going to win, the Seattle Seahawks or the Miami Dolphins, whatever. Now they got to make good and pay that back. They don't want to pay it back, or either they really can't pay it back. They just made a bet thinking that their team was going to win, but it went the complete opposite from what they thought. Guess what? They can't stay in that unit peacefully until they pay that other inmate back. So what they will do is they will, come up with this little suicide hustle that I'm going to kill myself. Because they know if they say those words as an officer, we got to remove them from the unit. So guess what? That inmate that they borrowed from ain't going to get that money back. Again, because it's all about survival. These guys will lie and say and do whatever to each other to get what they can get. And again, this slowly starts to build that institutionalization mindset, that institutionalized mindset, to where if he's been doing this for 10, 15 years because he's been incarcerated so long, and that's how he's been able to survive, by lying and manipulating, those habits are not going to leave him once he is released from the prison. That does not mean those habits are gone because he's home now. He's going to do the same thing. He comes home. This may be your son. I'm going to use a mother and son scenario. Your son may come home after he done did 15 years, 20 years, and you think because he's out of the prison that he's mentally out of prison. He could be out of prison physically, but that don't mean he's out of prison mentally, because when he gets out here into the real world and he finds out he can't get a job because of his record, he finds out, that his past still is haunting him, to where, he applies for certain positions and people pull up his record and see, oh, we can't hire you. You've been in here for theft. You've been in here for computer fraud. You've been in here for child molestation, whatever you've been in there for. Now, again, he has to survive. He's still a grown man. He got to eat. He got to feed himself. He gonna need clothes. He gonna need shelter. When he realizes he can't get it the legitimate way because of his criminal past, what do you think he's gonna do when he has to resort to taking care of himself? He's gonna resort back to that prison hustle mentality, to where if he got to steal from you, go in your pocketbook and steal to survive. If he got to lie to you and say, Mom, I'm trying to find a job. Nobody ain't hired me yet. I need $100 so I can get some clothes to wear at a job interview. Nobody's not going to hire me. He's going to come up with all of these wonderful ideas to where you think you got a reformed son or reformed nephew who's out of the prison and now wants to better himself. And all this is game. He's just telling you that because he already knows he has to make it sound like he's trying to better himself in order to convince you to keep investing in him, giving him money, loaning him things, giving him things. And if you don't see no actions behind all the favors you are giving him, just keep in mind it's this prison hustle mentality that he has adopted as an inmate in prison, to where that's what he had to do in prison. He had to lie. He had to steal, had to manipulate, he had to talk good game, to confide, get other inmates to confide in him to where they're willing to take a chance on him. And he saw the results worked out in his favor, where he was able to get what he wanted through lies and deception. You think he's not going to use those same tools? You think he's not going to use those same institutionalized devices to manipulate you as his mother, as his father, as his sister? It's not going to go away or whatever. So just realize that prison enhances bad habits. You know, these guys have had to do all of that to survive, because unfortunately you can't be honest. Honesty don't really pay when when you're living with a lot of corrupt individuals. And that's just what comes with the territory. Jail is jail. So again, a lot of these guys will leave prison. Does not mean prison has left them. They're going to bring those same manipulative tactics at home. Okay, because they have these guys for survival. Second thing, for those of you who got loved ones coming home from prison, prison has taught them how to become better criminals. Me as a correctional officer, I hear these guys all the time coach each other into what they should have done. I've heard another inmate tell another inmate how he would rob certain stores, and the stores he would rob. And I heard the inmate telling him, man, you shouldn't have robbed them places. I can tell you some places you could have robbed where you could have got away with it at. You should have robbed Circle K off of blah, blah, blah. You should have robbed 7-Eleven, or if you rob this place or you rob this way, you won't get this much time. See, but by you robbing a public place, that's why you got the certain amount of time you got. You would have been better off doing an armed robbery. You would have been better off, stealing somebody's car and selling it, and taking it to a chop shop. Basically, these guys, they encourage each other to become better criminals at what got them in there in the first place. Unfortunately, prison I don't really think prison offers much rehabilitation programs. And there's plenty of factors involved in that. For one, there's too many turnovers. I've seen a lot of these guys. I worked in the rehabilitation program unit, where a lot of these guys went for 3, 4, 5 weeks, did everything the program required them to do. I mean, rehabilitation programs could be, I call anonymous. It could be the chaplain, which means they have a pastor or some type of religious program that comes in, a pastor or deacon or or Catholic priest or whatever, comes in and actually deals with inmates who have some type of religious belief. And I've seen them do remarkably well, only to still end up coming back there. Because the truth of the matter is, most of these guys, they're only participating in these programs because the judge ordered them to. Very rarely did they volunteer on their own. If they did, it was probably 2 out of 2,000 who did, who said, you know what, I really need help to fight these drugs. I'm a drug addict. I'm a crack addict, whatever. And they go into the program while they're in jail, and they use it to advantage because they don't want to go back out there the same way they came in. But like I said, that's really. But for the most part, most of these guys are only participating in these programs because they were court ordered. And whenever a person is doing something because they were told to do it, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be consistent. And the problem with a lot of these inmates, they do just enough to get by. Again, it's that hustling mentality. They even learn how to hustle the rehabilitation programs. They've learned how to hustle that. They learn how to do just enough where they can get their little certificate and say, okay, I completed the program. Okay, I completed my 12 weeks. Now I'm going to go back. When I get back out there into the real world, I'm going to go back out there and do what I want to do. And that's normally what happens. They go right back out there and they do the same thing. And I'm like, dude, what's the purpose of getting rewards? You got this certificate to prove to the judge that, okay, I completed the program. I'm ready to re-enter back into society as a productive citizen, only to come right back. So a lot of these guys, again, like I said, prison has taught them to be better criminals. It just makes them realize what they could have done different to not get caught. And it's going to always be another inmate that's going to school another inmate into next time what they could have done. Well, this is what you could have did. And then they schooled each other on certain things as far as, by encouraging them that you won't get as much time. They tell them how they can beat certain charges. They tell them what type of lawyers that are corrupt that help them get off. I mean, I listen to how these guys influence each other to become better criminals. Every once in a while, I may hear an inmate that may say something like, man, you don't want to be in here when you get out. Do right by yourself. Do right by your family so you don't even have to be in this place. You may have one or two that may sit there and try to lead another inmate a better direction. But especially for those who know they're not getting out, they definitely are not going to try to encourage another inmate who they know is not going to have to do near as much time as them. And the crazy part is a lot of these inmates, that's where some of them are slow. Why would you want to get advice from somebody who's never going to get out? You got somebody in there that's serving a double murder, never getting out, or somebody who murdered somebody, and never going to see the light of day. And here it is, you in there for something as simple as child support or traffic tickets, or you might have had your first bad your first felony, like you robbed a convenience store or something like that, which means you could possibly, because of the First Offender Act, you could possibly just get probation or something as simple as having to pay some fees and bond out. But you up here listening to a hard timer who telling you when you get out for your one little felony, and they got like 800 felonies, they're telling you how to do it bigger and better next time. So next time you do come back, you're going to be doing serving just as much time as them. Because let's face it, some of these guys, they do come up in here and they first crime ever be a major offense. I've seen inmates who've never been locked up before a day in their life. Or if they were locked up, it might have been for petty stuff that probably kept them there for a day or two, or they started out young with a juvenile offense, maybe truancy, or maybe running away from home, things like that, only to end up in prison for something major, a murder, a major drug bust, something that basically is going to give them at least 15 years or more. It's some guys who never been to prison, and the first time they ever commit offense, it sends them straight to prison. So for these type of individuals, they definitely know they don't stand a chance. Even with a first offense, especially I know a particular gentleman, inmate, he never been to jail before in his life ever, and have 4 armed robbery charges. And he has to do 20 years. Never been to prison. What's up, peeps? It's your favorite live stream cable app owner, Lady Mocha. I'm presenting to you a cheaper live stream cable alternative app, Espresso Streams. If you're getting fed up with Comcast, Spectrum, DirecTV, Dish Network, Sling, and these other high-cost cable providers, you need to invest into Espresso Streams. Espresso Streams is a live cable streaming app with over 10,000 choices of movies, shows, series, and videos on demand. Espresso Streams has premium movie varieties that has over 6 HBOs, 5 stars, over 10 Cinemaxes, and so much more. We all have an abundant selection of sports packages, including Red Zone, NASCAR, ESPN, and let's not forget, all pay-per-view events are included at no additional charge. charge. Unlike other cable providers that would charge extra with special streams, live pay-per-view events are included for free with your services. We also have international channels. Yes, you heard me. I have international channels for Espanol, Africa, Brazil, Jamaica, the Netherlands, and many other international channels from all over the world. And of course, we all have our popular USA networks, Sci-Fi on VH1, all the MTVs, TBS, ID Discovery, you name it, we got it. We have cartoon networks for children as well, and adult entertainment for your viewing pleasure. If you can afford to pay Netflix for $9.99 a month, add $16 more and you can afford special streams with way more selection. Netflix shows the same shows for months, while special streams is constantly premiering new movies and new shows. Plus, we also have all Netflix originals. So yes, you can still have your favorites from Netflix through Expresso Streams. What makes Expresso Streams so different? You don't get charged late fees. For up to 2 devices, it's only $26 a month. 3 or more, I will work a deal with you. All you need is high-speed internet of 25 megabytes per second or higher and an Amazon Fire Stick. You need a Fire Stick for every TV you have if you want cable on every TV in your home. You can also get the apps installed on your mobile device if you want live streaming cable on the go for an additional $5 a month. That's it, just $5 a month for live streaming cable on the go mobile app. So hit me up today if you are ready to dish that cable provider or dish satellite that's constantly freezing up every day, and come my way for Expresso Streams live cable app. Live cable with flavor. Holla at your girl. Before. Never, ever, 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 ever. So sometimes some of them go big the first time round. They don't even start off doing small offenses to kind of wean themselves through the correctional system. They go big the first time round and already have to adapt and adjust right away because they know they're not getting out anytime soon. Now, the next thing that you have to be aware of with the loved one that's being released from prison, heavy charges or extensive criminal history prevents them from getting steady work. Not only you have a lot of family members that go through this, you have a lot of women that are dating men or in prison or jail, not understanding that if your significant other is a repetitive offender, is a habitual offender, constantly in jail, I don't care if it's for little stuff. Let me tell you something. You can have 2 different offenders. You can have one who's in jail for murder and he knows he's going to do life. And then you can have another one who's never committed anything major like murder, but he's been in and out of jail the majority of his life for misdemeanor offenses and a few felony offenses. To me, they're on the same level. Only difference is this person did something big enough to where they don't have the luxury of going in and out. They're going to stay in. The other offender, who's the habitual offender, What's worse for him is he has the ability to try to straighten up his life and make a better decision because he's not in there for nothing major, but he keeps consistently, constantly going back to jail for misdemeanors and felonies all of the time because he can't get himself together. And this is the disadvantage of dealing with a loved one. If this your boyfriend or your man who is known to be a habitual violator, he's never going to keep a steady job. Think about it. He keeps getting locked up. What company, what business is going to keep a grown ass man? And like I said, I know women get locked up too, but I don't want to pace back and forth too much between the two because it can throw off the overall meaning of the content. But trust and believe, I am going to do content on female offenders because now that I deal with them up close and personal, it's some interesting stuff I have seen. We're going to talk about that and say that for another time, but let's just kind of stick to one subject at a time. Because I know it's going to always be that person. You always talking about the men offenders. What about the females? We'll save that for another time, and I will address that. Um, like I said, heavy charges. He's known to be in and out of jail, or he's in there for heavy offenses where he'll do 5 years, get out, do good for 4 to 5 months, to be locked up another 2, 3 years, then come back out, get a good job for a couple of months, then he goes back, have to do the rest of the time on paper because he done messed up his probation violation. Now he got to go back and do the whole 10 when all he had to do was keep a steady job and report to his probation officer, parole officer. He couldn't even do that. You got some guys that are just hard-headed, like some female offenders. Hard-headed, stubborn. They don't get tired of losing their freedom. But these are the ones who will bitch and complain. These are the ones who will call their loved ones saying, I'm tired of this place. They not feeding me right. They ain't treating me right. And it's you, family, it's your fault. Y'all enable these monsters because y'all create them to be monsters. They are already monsters to society, which is the reason why they're incarcerated in the first place. But y'all keep enabling them. No matter how many times they get locked up, y'all bond them out of jail. Y'all keep putting money in the books. Y'all make it comfortable for them now. You make it uncomfortable. Let them starve. Stop putting money on the books. Let them be stuck with just eating that garbage because the system gonna make sure they eat, regardless whether you put money in the books or not. They just not gonna be able to eat as much. But if you make them kind of suffer in there, they'll think twice. But a lot of family members and some of you girlfriends who got these guys that's in and out of jail, your baby daddy may be one of those dudes that's constantly in and out of jail. You keep enabling him by putting money on his books. You the first one to ride up there to see him, to take his kids to him. So your daughter, your son could talk to him through that glass window, knowing when he was out of jail, he didn't really make the time or the effort to be there for your son or child anyway, your son or your daughter. But you're the first one to run up there and bring the kids to him. As soon as he gets on the phone crying, I want to see my daughter. I want to see my son. But when he was out here, he acted like he was too busy. He had time for them. As I stated before, this is the chance you take dealing with an offender that's getting released from jail. You thinking they're going to come out, straighten up, do the right thing? I've seen it too many times. And again, if it doesn't apply, you don't have to reply. If you somebody who's been in prison and you straighten out your life, you never went back, then kudos to you. I'm not talking about the minority. I'm talking about the majority. Yeah, there's going to always be exceptions. I've known some guys who got out of jail and they're very great for themselves. But usually these are the ones who are older. You have a few young ones, but the few young ones usually have families. They may have children. They have certain responsibilities where they don't want to keep going back. But the majority, again, we're not talking about the minority. We know it's exceptions. Before somebody come up in the chat, well, that's not true. My baby daddy been locked up 2, 3 times and he ain't went back on the 4th and 5th time. Okay, well, some learn, some never do. But the purpose of this content is to prepare you for the ones that most of the time never do. And I'm telling you why they never do. But again, if you know somebody who's been in prison or jail and they doing the right thing, they turn their life around, then if it doesn't apply, you can let it fly. But we're talking about the ones who don't learn. So again, if he can't keep steady work, because he's constantly in and out of jail. What's going to happen is he's going to keep going to jail. He's not working, not being productive. He's going to end up getting himself involved in criminal activities that's going to put him right back in jail. Keep coming out and ain't got no job, nothing to fall back on, or he does have a job, but he keeps going to jail. That job not going to keep holding this position but so much. They hold it once, maybe even twice, but after a while, people cannot keep, jeopardizing a business to hold a position for a criminal offender who ain't trying to change his life and better himself. Eventually, they're going to do away with him, and they're just going to hire somebody else to be in this position. Can I blame them? No, I cannot. So, ladies, mama's boys out there who got sons in prison, you want to keep enabling them? Realize that when you do that, the longer you enable him, the bigger chances of him going back out there reoffending. But again, heavy charges or extensive criminal history prevents them from getting steady work. And if they can't get steady work, they're going to end up going back to go put them in prison in the first place. They're going to hustle. They're going to sell drugs. They got to do something. Because it takes money to make the world go round. You're putting 1,000 applications out there and nobody's not responding. What you going to do? Your baby mama calling you, blowing you up. All this time you've been locked up in jail. I need money for our kids. Nobody's not hiring you quick enough. What you going to do? You got to pay your probation officer fees. You got no job. You don't pay it. You going back to jail. What you going to do? No steady work means you're going to resort right back to doing what got you in prison in the first place. Next is, and I mentioned this earlier before, things you need to consider if allowing a loved one in prison to come back. Prison rehabilitative programs aren't always effective. I mentioned that already before, but it just places more emphasis on it. Again, like I said, a lot of these guys, they just do it, because it's part of a court order. They're not trying to better themselves or anything. Some things you cannot rehabilitate. If you have an offender who has been smoking crack all of his life for 15, 20 years out there in the street, you think a 3-month program is going to help him to clean all that up? Then there are some things that they can't be rehabilitated for. Like if the individual has a charge that's way beyond a drug habit. For instance, if the offender has issues with immoral sexual behavior, if they're going around here molesting little boys, sexually abusing little girls, there's no rehabilitation program for that. Let's just be frank. How many times have you even seen a program where you see 8, 9, 10 child molesters or registered sex offenders sitting down in a group and saying, "Hi, my name is Bob. I'm a child molester addict. I love messing with little kids. I love having sex with underage girls." They haven't created programs, not that I know of, for offenders who have that type of issues. So what do you think is going to happen when that offender goes back out there into the real world? And he has to face those demons that caused him to get incarcerated in the first place. He does not have any self-control over being around an underage child and not control his urges, his demonic urges, that's what I call them, of being able to keep his penis in his pants when he's around a child. You can't rehabilitate somebody with that type of sickness. Because to me, it's not an addiction. We need to stop going around using that word addiction as something you can't help. You can help not touching somebody's child. So my thing is, our rehabilitation programs don't work because some of them don't even exist. I haven't heard of a child molestation anonymous program. Now, Even like I said, I use that example about crack. Somebody with alcohol, an offender who has excessive DUIs, who finally killed somebody, all because they couldn't stop drinking and driving, and it finally got put them in a worse predicament to where it caught up with them, and they hit somebody who was riding on a bicycle, killed somebody's child, walking home, crossing the school zone area, and they so drunk or so high they passed that stop sign and killed somebody's child. And even then, I don't even think those type of individuals get enough of time. But that's another topic for another day. Nothing is perfect, not even the criminal justice system. So, everybody wants to give the system a hard time, but at the same time, you got human beings that are orchestrating the laws, and human beings are not perfect. So it's not ever going to be 100% effective to where all of us will get to that point where we can be happy and be like, oh, the criminal justice system is just so fair to all of us. They're finally doing the right thing. It's going to always be something that somebody's going to find faults and flaws in it. So it is what it is. But that's another thing you have to consider. Rehabilitative programs don't always work. Another tip, an event you're thinking about allowing a loved one to come in to enter your home, or you're willing to take on a incarcerated individual who's just getting released. If the inmate don't learn a trade or took classes, he will come out into the world 20 times more educationally handicapped when he went in. Just keep in mind that some of these guys, they don't make good use of their time. I noticed in the correctional facility where I work, some of these guys are not active. They're not active intellectually. They're not exercising their brains. They're not exercising their intellect. They're not exercising their muscles. I notice a lot of guys in the jail, they're not even working out as much as they used to. I've seen guys come in skinny as a twig, as a beanpole, to end up being, overweight. A lot of these guys, they're not being active in the jail. They're not even playing sports. They're not even shooting hoops. They're laying around and eating all day. Eat, sleep, eat, sleep, eat, sleep, eat, sleep, and watch TV. So a lot of these guys, these inmates, are just letting themselves go. And that's by no fault of the correctional facility. These guys can work out. They can still take care of themselves and get physically fit. A lot of these guys have gotten lazy. All they want to do is sleep and eat. If not that, they do not want to exercise their mind. Some of these guys will not read no books. They will not read any newspapers. They try to keep up with what's going on in the outside world. A lot of these guys have no interest on trying to educationally keep themselves informed as to what's going on with the system, as to the things that they need to be in tune with as far as the outside world. A lot of them, they come in the correctional facility, they become lazy. Now, there are some that I know personally who will read books day in and day out, who will read 1,000 books a day. You have some men, that's what I do like about dealing with the male inmates, is that they know how to keep themselves occupied. They will find a book. They'll read a book. And in some of these correctional facilities, they have tablets now. So these guys, they have access to the internet. I think they have to pay extra money for that, though. They have to put a certain amount of money on their books. And then they get a code where they can access and use the tablet. But they're limited. They can't go to porn sites and stuff like that or whatever. I don't even think they can go to Facebook in some cases. I don't know. But they do get them a little, access to the outside world, but it has nothing to do with your whole freedom. You can't. It'll never measure up to having your own freedom. But some of these guys, they don't make good use of their time. That's basically what I'm saying. A lot of these jails and these prisons, they offer a lot of different things. These guys could take up workshop. These guys could take up auto body. There's all type of things these guys, these inmates and female inmates can do to make their time effective for those who do stand a chance of being released. Those who know they're never going to get out of jail, some of them, once they realize they got life, they say, I don't want to be here for the rest of my life. Ain't no need of me laying in bed and just snacking my life away and withering. I'm going to go pick up a craft. I'm going to take up sewing. I'm going to learn how to sew things. I'm going to take up being a hairstylist. Believe it or not, they got all of that, and they got different things in there. You can become a barber. It's all type of things these men and these incarcerated men and women who don't have long in prison can learn, so that way when they go back out into the real world, they got something to take with them other than just a rap sheet. The inmate don't learn a trade or took anything. I mean, what is he gonna have to offer to the world when he gets back out? A lot of these young men, they get in these jails, they don't learn nothing. They went in at a young age, would not even get their high school diploma. All these years they've been in there, they didn't get no GED. They coming right back home, right back out with nothing. And they did 10 to 15 years and stepping right back out into the world with nothing to show for it. They don't have anything. They cannot say, yeah, I've been locked up, but guess what? I know how to build um crafts. I know how to make things. I know how to work on cars. I know how to, repair AC units. I know how to do electrical wiring. Some of these guys get in there and do absolutely nothing but waste their lives. They don't learn anything. And these are the main ones who need to be learning something, because if you can't get a job, at least you got a craft. If you learn how to fix things when you're in there, by the time you get out, you can start your own little business. You start your own electrical repairing business where you can fix refrigerators and deep freezers or AC units. Things like that are always breaking down. So people are going to need service for that stuff to get repaired. They also, these guys learn how to do maintenance. You have some of these trustees, which we don't call them trustees anymore, we call them inmate workers. They pick up all type of work for them around there, where they can learn how to adopt certain type of trades. Some of these guys will lay around and watch TV all day, eat all day, sleep all day, and just hustle all day. The first thing when they do when they wake up is figure out who I'm gonna hustle today. Who can I get some commissary for? Who is gonna let me make some phone calls today? Who can I catch slipping? And they leave their commissary in their room, and as soon as they turn it back into the shower, I can go in there and steal their commissary. Because some of these inmates, they wake up thinking of something effed up to do. You know what I mean? To make their time there harder, to create more enemies, where they got the lie and say they want to kill themselves just so they can get removed out of certain units. That way they ain't got to pay back the debts that they done stole or owe from other inmates. But unfortunately, that comes with the territory. Another thing you have to consider is that some come out of prison to pick up where they left off. Some things you can't escape from no matter how long you've been in prison. Some of these guys, they could do 10, 15 years, get back out there. If you've been a part of a gang before you went in jail, guess what? You're still a part of that gang. Like most gangs tell you by motto, you don't get out of a gang unless you die. So they still got to go back in them streets and face and become a part of that same issue that caused them to get locked up in the first place. Or if you're a registered sex offender, you got to go back out there into the world as a registered sex offender, which means that any job you apply to, whatever, that's going to be on your record. I mean, in many instances, however you came in prison, you got to go back unless you really, really do a drastic 360. And that takes the power of God, discipline, and a lot of support. You don't have those three things, then you're going to struggle, in that area. So that's something you have to consider. You're thinking about letting your son, your daughter, whoever come back home. Those are things you need to think about. Some of them have not learned their lesson. You would think if they did 10, 15, 20 years in jail or prison, that's giving them time to think about all the mistakes they made, and that's giving them time to correct it. Them guys will come back still repeating the same, they'll go right back to picking up where they left off. They'll go right back to them same homeboys who got them locked up. They'll go right back to that same no good man or no good woman who's always gotten them into trouble. They'll go back to that. Or they'll hang out in them same environments. Being in the hood is what caused you to get locked up. As soon as you get released from jail, where do you go? First place you go to? Back to the hood. So a lot of these individuals, they go pick up where they left off. You got a son or a daughter, They come back home after they done a couple of years, and you see them hanging with them same homeboys that you knew got them in trouble. That's a red flag. He's going back to prison. Or you need to say something to them. If they don't listen, then you need to let them know, hey, you got to move out my house. Call your PO and get them a new address because you can't stay here. You're going right back into the environment that caused you to get locked up in the first place. I don't want to be a liability. I don't want my safety. I want my household to be a liability to the bad decisions that you're making. So pay attention to that. They doing the same stuff that caused them to go back. Still hanging out that hood, still with them same homeboys, still with them same homegirls, still with that no good mate. Okay, you already know what's coming. Next is if you're thinking about taking back institutionalized loved one. No opportunity means resorting back to crime. Pretty much ties into what I said before about your record. Unfortunately, it sometimes holds you back. So means there's no opportunities, which means you got to survive. You're gonna have to resort back to crime. You're going to apply somewhere because you want to make a different change. And it's unfortunate that some people are not going to believe in you. As an inmate, you got to be prepared. A lot of people are not going to believe in you. Hell, there's some of us out here with college degrees. I went for 2 years not getting a job. Never been in jail before in my life. But 2 years, nobody wanted to hire me. This somebody with 2 master's degrees. So I can only imagine the challenges of somebody who's incarcerated. Especially if your record says you're a registered sex offender. Which probably could have been you didn't really touch somebody's child, like a 3 or 4-year-old. You might have been messing with a female that was 16 years old, just 1 year under the legal age. And she lied to you, deceived you, whatever. And you got caught up and the parents filed charges against you or whatever. And now you're a registered sex offender. Guess what? A lot of these jobs, they're not going to care. They're not going to ask you details. Once they see you are a registered sex offender, they're automatically going to feel some type of way. They're already automatically going to judge you. You might have been stealing because, you got laid off from work. Even though the right thing would have been to keep trying and fighting until you get your job that's going to hire you. But at the end of the day, if your light's about to get turned off, your water about to get turned off, you got crying babies, you had to go sell a little weed, whatever. Anybody could judge you or knock you, but you did what you had to do at the time. You just took a chance and that chance costed you. So again, as I mentioned before, if you don't have the sources to work, you got a family to take care of that's depending on you when you get out of jail, you can resort back to crime. Same thing with your family members who got a loved one that's calling you, telling you, I'm about to be released. I'm about to come home soon. This is something these are some things you got to think about. What if you don't get a job right away? What if she don't get a job right away? How long are you going to help this grown man and grown woman carry themselves, knowing they got a record? You have to be very patient. Understand your son, your daughter come back home after doing 10, 15 years in prison. Nobody's not going to hire a newly released inmate. Ain't like this happened 15, 20 years ago. They ain't been out of jail a good couple of months. And the way technology is, anybody can go online and find out what you done did now. People get paid for your criminal records. That's how bad it done got. This stuff used to be private, where only big time people can get it. Thanks to social media, anybody can type your name in and find mug shots on you and find out what you've been locked up for. So that's something to think about. That person may not get a job. How long as the baby mama are you going to hold him down till he get a job? How long as his mother, as his father? How long y'all plan on holding him down? And let me mention this other point while I'm thinking about this. When I mentioned earlier about how prison has bad habits, realize when you allow an incarcerated individual to come into your house, they could change the whole dynamics of your household. Everyone has become accustomed to running their house a certain way. I run my house a certain way. Everybody runs their house a certain way. You have a certain way, a certain time when everybody goes to sleep in the house, a certain time when you all eat together as a family. you get used to orchestrating your household to be ran a certain way. When you have a person from prison who comes in to your home and they bring them habits with them, they can change the whole dynamics of the household. You may have young little kids that that you're still raising, and you have this grown man or grown woman who just got out of jail having to come stay with you. That could take the kids out of their element. They don't know this man, they don't know this woman. Or you done got used to being by yourself, and here it is, this grown son or this grown daughter, they'll come to stay with you. Realize the last time you probably saw them, they was underage, where you can tell them what to do. You get them a curfew, get them a bedtime. Now they coming back full grown. You think you're going to give a grown man or a grown woman who's been incarcerated for 10, 15 years all type of regulations and rules and stipulations, and think now that they're grown, after they done been told what to do and have restrictions on them for 15, 20 years in jail, you think they come home, they're going to still be in prison by you telling them where they can't go, what they can't do in the house, even though that's your household? You got to realize these people, when you're dealing with a loved one who just been released from prison, last thing they want is somebody telling them what to do. You got to realize in prison, they have constantly been told what to do. They've been given a bedtime. They've been given a child time. They've been given a shower time. They're not coming home and still be told what to do. You being a guard dog. I know you've been in our jail for years. I know you've been in prison for years, but this is my house, the way I'm going to run it. You can't come in here 2, 3 in the morning. That's going to cause problems, especially if they are full-term adults. They children, like juvenile delinquents, okay, you might can do something about that. But when a grown man or grown woman is being released from prison, you're not going to give them no rules. If you do, I guarantee you they're going to break a few of them. How the hell you think they end up in prison in the first place? By not respecting rules. A zebra don't always change its stripes, ladies and gentlemen. But I will bring that up. Next thing is, this is the chance you may be taking when you let in an incarcerated loved one, is that some criminals adopt homosexuality. And I'm not knocking those who are part of the community. Everybody has a right to decide who they want to love, who they decide they want to be with. We don't have a right to tell someone, well, you're supposed to only love this kind of person. You're supposed to only be with this type of person. None of us are in no position to tell another human being who they should or should not love. That is between them and the Lord. If they doing something immoral or unethical, when they meet their maker, he'll deal with them on that. Until then, while we here on this earth, I don't have time to be ridiculing somebody about what choices they make when they decide as far as who they want to be with, whether it's the opposite sex or the same sex. But the problem is, a lot of these guys partake in a lot of homosexuality activities when they're incarcerated. Yes, your own son who you never thought was like that, your own daughter. I see it all the time. I see people who come in there straight, act thuggish, act manly, only to get caught in the shower. Only to get caught messing around, doing inappropriate things that they normally would not do out here in the real world because they have access to the opposite sex. But when it's just men around men all day, women around women all day, and you don't have no control over those urges, you're going to gravitate towards what's available to you. It's called gay for the state, whatever they want to call it, whatever. But the thing is, they come out into the real world after they committed these offenses, and either they're going to be deceitful, they're going to come out here getting with other women, acting like they wasn't doing none of that in prison, passing the package along, especially if they wasn't using protection in there. 9 out of 10 they wasn't, because they don't. I've never heard any prisons to give out Trojan condoms. Probably do. I don't quote me exactly right, but I would advise prisons to do that, because at the end of the day, people gonna sneak and do what they want to do, and not giving them something is just enhancing the chances of STDs being spread. Because at the end of the day, people are human. When they want to get off, they're gonna get off. Don't encourage it, but at the same time, you got to do something to prevent it. So it's two things with that. When these guys, like I said, adopt that type of lifestyle, either going to be deceitful and come out here and get back with their baby mama, acting like they ain't been dealing with men in there, going out there acting like, because you got some guys, they don't consider themselves that way because in their mind, they don't learn how to reason with it. And they don't know how to lie and deceive themselves. Well, I only did that because I was in the county at that time. I'm out here now. So what I did then don't count. You get some guys, they learn how to lie to themselves like that. You get some women who learn, some female offenders who will lie to themselves. Knowing they've been in all type of, indulging in all type of lesbian activities, but will get out here and get all kind of men and act like they ain't never been like that. And women are more prone to getting in those type of activities because we're more emotional. And we don't like being lonely. You know what I mean? And for all these guys making excuses about, oh, that was only in jail. My thing is nobody can entice you to be something that you're not. If you're really, really a straight man, then I don't care how lonely or how desperate or how thirsty you are, you're not going to resort to dealing with another man. So you can't use because you're in jail as an excuse. And I'm not knocking that, but I just say when people try to lie. If you're gay, be happy with being gay. You should be proud of that. You shouldn't be walking around holding your head down and letting people make you feel bad about it. Be proud of who you are. Like I tell some females, if you're proud of being a whore, be proud of it. Don't walk around holding your head down. Don't be getting mad when another person wants to call you out and call you a hoe. If you know you're a hoe, be a proud one. Be good at it. Because at the end of the day, nobody's opinion is going to put food on your table. But I hate when people try to act like they're something they ain't. You know you're around here hoeing. Don't get offended when people call you a hoe. Like, yeah, I'm a hoe, but I'm a good one. I'm good at what I do. It's paying my bills, whatever. Thing is, I don't care about who you choose to be with. Whatever your sexual preference is, that is your business. And nobody got in the right to tell you who you should and shouldn't be with. But my problem is when you're being deceitful, when you down low. You're saying one thing, but you're doing something else. I cannot stand them kind of people. They make my skin crawl. You walk around here acting like, Big Willie. But behind closed doors, you Sweet Willie in a correctional institution. You Sweet Willie. Stop being deceiving. You did what you had to do at that time because that's what you really want to do. It had nothing to do with, well, because of the circumstance you were in. Okay? Like this. Nobody put it this way. Nobody can't make me smoke crack no matter how depressed I am unless I already wasn't smoking it. You put crack right in front of my face right now. I ain't gonna want no parts of it because I've never done crack. Crack is not in me. It's not going to be no, well, I did do crack this one time because I'm feeling a little down on myself. I just felt, really sad at that moment. I was going through something at that moment. Just too many people being deceitful and lying. But anyway, let me get back to my next few points. I can get ready to wrap this up. The next chances you're taking in dealing with an incarcerated loved one, they struggle with adapting to the changes of the world, to the new changes of the world. They've been locked up for 10, 15 years. Do you realize how much they got to catch up on when they come out of here? As a mother, as a wife, as a husband, when you let an incarcerated, institutionalized individual come into your life, you're going to have to help them catch up on so much in the real world. I knew this one individual, when he got out of jail, he didn't even know how to do an electronic application. He thought it was still done the old-fashioned way. All of us who've been out here for years know a lot of these jobs, they're doing away with turning applications in person. Everything is online now. He was totally lost in the sauce. He didn't know nothing about emails. He didn't know nothing about how to attach a file and send it. He was totally lost in the sauce. And this is the thing, the longer they stay incarcerated, when they come out, that is the more you're going to have to help them catch up on. And you got to be prepared for that. You got to be prepared. You're going to have to, it's like teaching a newborn baby all type of stuff. Dealing with an institutionalized loved one after they did 10 plus years or more, they got to come out here and catch back up. Now, I will say the prisons and the jails have gotten better at keeping them up to date. You know, they're able to watch TV, you know, to see how the world is changing before their eyes, but it's nothing like actually being out there in the world. You know, they're giving them tablets, they're giving them access to computers, but it's still nothing like being out here in the real world, you know. So just keep in mind, you're gonna have to walk them through everything. A lot of stuff they're not gonna know how to do because they've been locked up a long time, and the prisons and the jails could only supply but so much to keep them up to date with with the new age world and how technology operates. Last time some of them was probably out of jail was when we had the damn Motorola flip phone. They come out of prison, seeing these Note 20s, these iPhones. Last phone they probably saw was the flip phone when you just had to make that call in, call out. You know, when we had to create our own ringtones, you put a brand new iPhone in their hand, they ain't even gonna know how to use it. People don't think about stuff like that, but it's deep. They don't know nothing about Uber drivers. They know nothing about. It's just a whole lot. You're gonna have to walk them through. Next is they struggle making relationships. This is the catch you take. This is the chance you take when you allow an incarcerated loved one to come back home. They struggle with relationships. You got to realize, you know, they've been locked up for a long time. They probably wasn't able to really communicate them and express themselves because they had authority over them. You know, whatever the correctional institutional facility said, that's what went. They couldn't argue them, came back. If they got rolled up for something, if they got extra charges added on them, you know, it was their word against the officer that filed on them. You know, just all type of things where they struggle with communicating. You know, a lot of what they go through. Let's face it, some of these guys have probably been raped by other male inmates. All kind of stuff can transpire with an incarcerated loved one who's been locked up for 10 years or more. Of course, their ego and their pride is not going to say that unless they make it that evident and they decide to go the other way once they get out. But they struggle making relationships because, again, prison is a very grimy place. It's not a place where you can make real friends. It's not a place where you can really bond with people the right way. It's a lot of corrupt individuals there. Everybody's off for themselves. So you don't build trust with all kind of people. You don't earn your trust level is very low when you done seen inmates get backstabbed or literally stabbed over a simple misunderstanding or got jumped over a simple misunderstanding. Prison and jail will make you not trust anybody because you see how deceitful people are, how corrupt people are. And it's not just the inmates. Sometimes you see other police officers being corrupt with inmates. Or you see police officers be corrupt with other police officers. Let's face it, everybody ain't clean. Everybody ain't sticking to the policy and procedure and they're not going by the book. There's just so much corruption. And when you've been around that for 10 plus years or more, you're not going to really trust anybody. You're going to come home and figure, even though people telling you what to do, you're not going to look at it as an inmate like my mom really wants me to do better so I don't go back to prison. My dad, my sisters, them want me to do better. My baby mama, she don't want me back in jail because she done had to raise this child by herself. She's just getting on me and riding my coattails so I stay straight. Some of them get offended. You got to realize these guys have been bossed around, these inmates, these offenders, even female offenders. My female offenders who done been locked up so long, somebody else had to raise their children and stuff. And now, you know, people telling them, hey, you home now. You need to get your together so you can raise these children. They get offended by that. Even though the person who's delivering them the right message and telling them the right thing, you got to realize these people been bossed around and been regulated and people been running them all their life. Now they got to come home and be ran some more like I told them so. They can really struggle making relationships, and this is the chance you take. So I'm gonna get ready to wrap it up. You know, again, like I said, I know this content was about inmates. If you are an inmate who does not fit any of the descriptions that I just pointed out, then good for you. You won the battle. You were one in the many who was able to not allow the choices you made to not discourage you from wanting to have a better life. So again, if this doesn't apply, you don't have to reply. You don't have to go back and forth. Well, that's not true. All of us ain't like that. I went to prison. I came out and I made something of myself. I ain't slept with nobody when I was in prison. Why are you saying men adopt homosexuality, or you ain't saying nothing about the women? We don't have to go back and forth on the what ifs and who did and who didn't. We know there's an exception. If you wasn't one of the few that fit any of these things that I listed, then good for you. You know, be confident in who you are. Don't let content creators make you feel some type of way because they're speaking on a subject that's close to you that you can relate to. So you feel like content creators are stepping on your toes, or they calling you out on something. I mean, it's just not that serious. You get what I'm saying? So, but nevertheless, you can leave your opinion. You know, I would like to hear your opinion. If you were somebody who was incarcerated and you turned your life around, leave a comment. Let me know what you did to better yourself. Maybe I can tell these inmates at my facility where I work what they could do to better themselves, you know. Or if you kept falling short, what do you think caused that? Was it the wrong crowd? Was it lack of confidence? You know, I want to hear both sides. For those of you who have bettered yourselves after being incarcerated, or for those of you who still struggle to get it together and still struggling to keep it together. It would be interesting to just kind of get an opinion from different individuals that had different circumstances. But basically, this was the purpose of this content, to prepare all of you who are close to having family members who have been incarcerated for a significant amount of time, and they have nowhere else to go, and they reached out to you, mom, dad, brother, sister, I'm going to be coming home soon. You know they have nowhere to go. And you just need to be prepared for what you may be up against. You see any of these things, you know, just consider them red flags. But at the same time, don't totally give up on them. But if they are having too many of the issues that I mentioned, you better be very cautious. Realize once you open that door, you could be opening Pandora's box. You're going to see a lot of things about them that you never even knew was real, because again, you've been away from this person for a long time. You don't realize how much prison has changed them. That sweet little boy before he went to prison, that sweet little girl before she went to prison, he or she does not exist anymore. Prison changes people. And it's not just if you have a child. You have your baby daddy, a baby mama, in and out of prison, in and out of jail. Your wife, your husband, somebody you love, who you really want to change so bad, but they have become institutionalized. They cannot be no more than what they are. And that's just a harsh reality that you have to face. So anyway, y'all, I have chatted long enough. I hope this content is helpful for somebody. Just realize what chances you are taking in when you are allowing a criminal offender to come back into your home, to come back into your life. Just use the wisdom of discernment. Pray on it. Ask God to show you signs before you get too deep. Or best solution is to just avoid it altogether. They're a grown man, they're a grown woman. They need to be out on their own, rebuilding their life on their own. If you're going to help them from a distance, but I don't advise you bringing them close up, you know, in your home, around your persons and stuff, unless you know for a fact that person can be trusted and he or she has really changed their ways. So anyway, y'all, I'm going to shut it down. This is my late night chat. So by the time y'all get up and get this, it's probably going to be hella early, or it's going to be the next day. But you know, I just wanted to just upload while I was in good spirit to do it. So leave y'all opinion, ladies, guys, anybody want to cash out. You know, my cash app information, everything is left in the description box. And basically, y'all, I'm going to call it a night. This is your girl, your diva and knowledge, Lady Mocha. Remember, I'm going to always pour you a cup of truth, and I'm going to always break you off a slice of knowledge. Y'all be blessed, and until next time, take care. Deuces.